reviews, and it is the 5,000 subscriber live stream celebration, which feels like an odd thing to do considering I just put out the video saying that I am halting my reviews in solidarity with the WGA writer's strike. But regardless, I'm here now. So this isn't a review. This is more just a live stream, a chit chat, and I'm also going to be taking care of a lot of Ask Me Anything questions that have built up a backlog. So hello to everybody out there. Hi there. Let's see. We got Tanner, we got Liam, we got Glenn, we got Sammy, Mel. Hello, everybody. Just got home from my show. It's 11 p.m., so probably won't be around in the entire thing, but happy to be here. Happy to have you here. So, yeah, 5,000 subscribers. I can scarcely believe it myself. It has been nearly 5 years of, some pretty hard work every once in a while. And I got to be honest, I've always tried to follow the path of slow and steady growth. And in that, I think that I've succeeded, and I'm pretty proud of that. So thank you to all of you out there for helping me along this journey. It has been a wild, wild ride, full of laughs and tears and scares and Amityvilles. But yeah, here's to another 5,000. Here's to another 5 years. Hopefully the next 5,000 will happen a little faster than that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hi there, Chet. Hello, Colin. Welcome and thank you. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be, kind of addressing the chat as it comes up as best as I can. Sometimes it kind of moves a little fast, and we'll just see how that plays out. But if you aren't subscribed to my Patreon, first of all, I encourage that. But you've also missed that I do a weekly vlog series where I basically just sit right in this chair here and just talk about what's been going on for the last week, what's been on my mind, any new developments, anything along those lines. And at the end of that, I answer a random question that patrons can submit a form and ask me anything. So I have built up a backlog of those that I haven't been able to get to. Thank you so much, Sammy, I still haven't come up with like a nightmare fuel label for the rotted, I don't know. But thank you. Very appreciated there. So, anyway, yes, I built up a backlog, so I'm going to be trying to blast through these. And the problem is I tend to get a little verbose when answering questions. So let me go ahead and kick over to that, and we'll see the list of questions that we have here. There's quite a few of them, a lot of them from WTL, a lot of them from Liam, and we'll just plow through and see how many we can get through in the next, I don't know, hour or two, or however long this goes on. I'm going to cap it at 2 hours. I don't know if we're going to make it that long. But it's going to be between 1 and 2 hours. We'll just see how long your attention span actually holds out for this. So, yeah, let's go with the first question here. What items are in your doomsday bunker currently? Asked by Ben. First of all, thank you, Liam, for... live channel really not working. There we go. Thank you, Liam. Totally not a bribe, but yes, there are some questions of yours in there, most certainly. Okay, so what items are currently in my doomsday bunker? Not as many as there used to be. When the pandemic started, I don't know, I go through fits and spurts of hobbies and interests and so forth, and one of them is survivalist prepping, or at the very least the idea of survivalist prepping. It's the same thing as like going into REI and being interested in outdoorsman stuffs, or going to Home Depot and being interested in being a handyman. I don't think that that's an entirely abnormal thing. They even did a Bob's Burgers episode on the outdoorsman stuff. But yeah, so I'll go through kind of a fit and spurt of, like getting water purifier and prepping my pantry. That's mostly what I've done. I do have some small burners and some fuel and so forth for them. But I really don't go nuts on it. And for the pantry, it's mostly just a lot of dry goods. So a lot of lentils, flour, things like that, stuff that I could make and bouillon so that if I needed to survive, but still had still had access to water, my ferret is awake, still had access to water, then I could, really do, cause some damage and actually have some good nutrition coming for a while. So that is, oh, thank you so much, Vicky. Wow, that is really appreciated. So, yeah, that's generally what I do. And the thing is, both with the tools, the outdoorsman stuff, and the survivalist prep stuff, my experience is the further down the rabbit hole you go, the more the cost goes up exponentially. It gets bonkers, absolutely bonkers when you actually start going into things. So as far as the survivalist stuff goes, I really did kind of set a goal of 2 weeks. If I could survive for 2 weeks without, electricity, heat, anything like that, then that was my goal. It would not be like full on zombie survival prep. Once you actually get into the time period of wanting to actually like prep for 6 months to a year, it is stupidly expensive and god awful, just in terms of the amount of work and sacrifice that needs to happen for that. Thank you, Tanner. Thank you so much. DK dollars. Yeah. Oh, thank you, chat. This is very unnecessary, but thank you. I really do appreciate it, everybody. Okay. So thank you, Ben, for asking what was in my doomsday bunker. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. If you were to recommend one film to somebody who is new to horror, which would you choose to showcase the genre and why? I think that I would really want to kind of tailor it to the person. If I didn't know them, if somebody wanted to say, I'm trying to introduce my nephew to horror, what movie would you recommend for me to do that? So, like a degree of separation that makes it so that I don't know the person and I don't have a method to communicate with them. Chances are, I would recommend probably Poltergeist. I think that is one of the best introductions to horror. It's not family friendly, but it's family accessible and it's family focused. It has some fantastic scares to it, just some absolute gut punch scares of both terror and jump scare variety. Has some interesting gore without going overboard. It's just a well-rounded, well-balanced horror movie that actually has good characters and a good plot, and I think it's a fantastic entry point. So thank you to Nikki for asking that one. Yeah, that face peel, ooh, that got me. And the steak with the, yeah, that whole bathroom sequence was not fun. I recall, like, Poltergeist 2 was one of the ones that really scared me as a kid, and I recalled it being, to this day, better than it actually is. Like, every time I view it, it's like, but it still holds a very strong place in my heart. I love Poltergeist 2, and I submit, I still think this is a fantastic idea that they should do a Reverend Cain prequel series, like a 6-episode miniseries about what happened to Reverend Cain and his followers in the desert that led them to Cuesta Verde, and it should star Walton Goggins. He would make the absolute perfect young Cain. I think that's my idea. I stand by it. I want to make that happen. So let's find out. Okay, next question. Open or close? So for those, so those of you that are just joining and you're kind of wondering what the hell is going on with all these questions, I just kind of stated it at the beginning, but basically, if you're a part of the Patreon, every week I do a vlog. And part of that is just talking about what's going on with my week. And at the end of every vlog, I will answer a question in a random fashion from somebody that can ask me anything, submitting a form. And I built up a backlog of them, so I'm kind of just purging a lot of them. And one of the things I love is WTL asking the most interesting questions possible with as few words as possible. He's has a lot of brevity to it, but a lot of thoughtfulness at the same time. So Tom is asking open or closed. And to that, I would say, so often I wind up in the middle of the road on things. This would be one of them. open but reserved, or closed and trusting. I don't know. I tend to be somebody that is fairly open with myself insofar as I try to live an honest life. I have not always done that. I have had historical elements, and it was mostly kind of baked into survival instinct of habits that were born from a trauma and abuse. And that became a little bit of an issue as I grew up, and I tried to maintain relationships. And dishonesty, which had been a bad habit in survivalist kind of applications, turned into a relationship killer. So it was something that I had to go to therapy and address. And I got to tell you, living an honest life, just being completely open and communicative, is so freeing. You don't have to remember who you told what. You don't have to remember anything. You just tell the truth, even if it's, something that is, potentially, unfavorable. There are ways to articulate things. So I believe in being very open, but at the same time, not so open that I expose, myself or my loved ones to any kind of danger. I'm not going to, throw out my credit card number on the screen here. So open, but reserved. Okay, so Sammy's asking a question here. If you could recreate, or if you can create any Halloween Horror Night house to walk through based on a horror movie, what would you pick? That's easy. And let's see, is Sean here? Sean, Nocturnal Horrors. Sean is here. Hi. Yeah, he knows what I'm probably about to say. I would recreate, and I don't know if it would be very popular, but it would be what I would love to have happen. The Belasco house. From the Legend of Hell House, from the Richard Matheson book and the 1973 movie. Absolutely the Belasco house. I think that would be a lot of fun. Super, super dark stuff in that house, but at the same time, very sprawling, very awesome. If I were to recreate a haunted house, it would be for Belasco, with a chapel and the hidden room, spoiler alert, and everything. So thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. And yes, I am very happy. 5,000 subscribers. That was awesome. If you have never heard of the Belasco house or the Richard Matheson Legend of Hell House, I cannot possibly recommend it enough. It is very close second to my favorite haunted house movie, and that's only because the 1963 The Haunting is such a masterful tale and such a great movie that it's really difficult to usurp that one. But very close second is the 1973 movie starring Roddy McDowall, The Legend of Hell House, and the Richard Matheson novel that movie was based on. Amazing, both the read and the film. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're a fan of haunted house movies, it is top tier. Mike, do you have a horror franchise that you would say is the overall strongest? No, I don't want to live in the Amityville house. I honestly am just, even without being burnt out on it, I'm like, there's not a lot about the Amityville mythos or history that is terribly interesting to me. I've heard, much more interesting. Even just in the annals of the Warrens, I've heard more interesting stories like the Smurl family. I thought that was more interesting. Anywho, back to Tanner's question of what franchise I think would say is overall the strongest. I'm really trying to think like a franchise that doesn't really have any weak points to it. And I'm kind of struggling because every franchise that I can think of, I can definitely think of weak points. Alien, yeah, there's a few weak. Saw, yeah, Saw, the great thing about Saw is that it's fairly consistent. The only problem that I really have with Saw is I think that it kind of falls down in the, as the movies progress, it becomes less about the tests that put people through their moral, ethical, and physical limits to try and have them address their behaviors, and more just ways to torture them, just flat out. And to me, that's a little less interesting. So it winds up being, if you can remove your arm from this trap, then the train won't hit you. And it winds up being a situation where they completely flail themselves, get their arm out of the trap at the last minute, and the train hits them. So it kind of winds up being a situation where, people are going through the most amount of pain possible and still fail. And to me, that just kind of, Alien always had a soft spot. Evil, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go with Evil Dead. That's a strong one, and I don't think that there's a stinker in the bunch. There is solid entries all around. Even Ash versus Evil Dead. There's one or, there's not so great episodes, but overall, I think the series was great. So, Scream is decent. Kate, Evil Dead, Alien, and Final Destination. I need to watch. I think there's one or two Final Destinations I haven't seen yet, but I am an Alien apologist. I love Alien, and even like Alien 3. I know David Fincher wasn't too happy with it. I know a lot of people weren't happy with it, but I honestly enjoyed it for what it was, and I think that Alien Resurrection is a super amount of fun, and I will die on that hill. But yeah, I'm going to go with Evil Dead. And for those of you that are interested in my take on the latest Evil Dead, I did watch it. No, I didn't do a review of it yet, but I would have to say that I thought that it was decent, but it kind of paled in comparison to the Fede remake, the 2013 remake. That would be a tough one to beat. And I think that it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. The new one, Evil Dead Rise, good and gory, great moments in it. Cheese grater, of course. But I think that if we've learned anything from Poltergeist 3 and from Satan's Slaves Communion, taking an existing concept and setting it in an apartment building alone and just, basically transplanting it doesn't necessarily make for an interesting tale. I kind of felt like it was just, it was telling the same story over and over. Whereas we had, Army of Darkness, totally different. This kind of felt like the same thing, just told in a different setting. So, but I did enjoy it. It just wasn't as good as I was, I guess, hoping for, but that was a high bar. Some of the, Hellraiser into the mix too. Some of the sequels are great apart from the trilogy. I really enjoyed the latest one. I think the ones that were written with the Cenobites in mind from the get-go were all pretty worthy. I even like Hellraiser 3. The ones that were optioned and had new Cenobites just injected into them to be a part of the franchise and keep the rights available, that kind of waned a bit. But yeah, had some interesting moments. Okay, back to Tom's question of open or closed. I think I answered that. Thank you for asking that one. So let's get the next one going here. I should probably be removing these as they go. How do you define love? Tom, asking the easy questions. Oh God, how do I define love? Cinnabon should totally do a Hellraiser promo. Yeah, Bite Cinnabon. That would be fantastic. How do I define love? I define love. I define love as trust. I think that is kind of what it comes down to. I think that most relationships, but especially, romantic or otherwise, monogamous partnerships, and even, polyamorous relationships are based entirely and solely on trust. It is the foundational elements, and without it, I don't think there can be love. And I think that, relationships generally kind of require that. And I think that the strongest relationships require that. So yeah, I'm going to say love is trust. Even when we're talking about friendships, if we're talking about acquaintances that you just want to go to the ballpark with, you know, trust isn't necessary. I mean, it's a factor, but you know, if you caught them in a white lie or something like that, it's like, all right, well, we're going to write that person off, but it's not going to be devastating. I think once trust actually starts really entering into it, then love also hand in hand starts entering into it. That when trust gets broken, love becomes much more difficult, and vice versa. When love falls apart, you know, trust tends to kind of fall apart on its own. So yeah, I think that, you know, love is essentially a building that is foundationally built by trust. So it would be difficult to define it any other way for me. So, hi, I was just answering. Hi there, Tom. I was just answering your question about love. So, yeah, there we go. That's the best I can define it. Just kind of speaking off the cuff there, but yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sammy. What a good answer. Yay for me. So, wow, 15 concurrent people here. Welcome. All right. So let me, I'm going to clean up some of these questions here. Do these already clean up? No, they don't. Okay. So we'll get rid of some of these as I continue answering. Okay, that one I've answered. Sorry. I'm just cleaning up the list here. Okay, so moving on to the next question. What are the best positives and also negatives of keeping each pet species you own? Okay, well, I guess we'll just go down the list because it's a list. So we have a couple cats. Positives for that is, well, the cats that we have at the very least are very, very affectionate and snuggly. So, I mean, that's, you know, there's a certain level of fun with the companionship and warmth and so forth. But there's also the really strong benefit that you can blame anything on them. That if you're, you know, sitting in bed, you got your partner with you, and you hear something crash on the other side of the house. Must be the cat. It's fine. We don't need to check it out. It's not a ghost. It's nothing. Just nope. It's the cat. But they're both right. Nope. It's the cat. So, yeah, no, I mean, they are wonderful, wonderful creatures. And especially when you kind of get them in a, I would say this for all pets, really, when you get them in a position of actually being a part of the family and having that level of trust and affection. And, you know, then the negatives also kind of come into play with behavioral issues, you know, just the stuff. I mean, cats are just a pile of instincts with razor claws. So when those instincts really, you know, do some damage, that can be annoying. But for the most part, I mean, I would say the pros obviously outweigh all the cons for each of the species. So that would be my thing is, you know, when the instincts kind of become destructive and it becomes a little more difficult to kind of course correct, then yeah, the frustrations can be there. And also the idea of having these carnivores that are kind of up on the food chain from the other species that I'm going to go on, it causes problems with intermixing pets. So we have, yeah, the 2 cats, we have 3 chinchillas. The chinchillas are delightful. They are hammy as all get out. They love, love, love to be, you know, stretched, and they're super soft and very, very cute. I love the chinchillas. They are a pain in the ass to take care of. They don't require a whole lot, but they do, you know, the environment does need to be right. They can't have plastic. Their environment mostly needs to be wood and metal. And you have to keep them within a certain temperature range. They are Himalayan creatures, or at the very least, you know, you cannot let them get above 80 degrees. And even 75 is kind of, you know, that's where the warning signs start, but they can get overheated very, very quickly, and it causes major health problems if they do. So, during the summertime, we have to keep an AC unit going with a thermal regulator to kick it on automatically. And you also, they're very much like Mogwais. You cannot get them wet. Chinchilla fur is so dense, especially the undercoat, that if you get them wet, they cannot dry very efficiently on their own, and it just causes that moisture to lock in and rot. And that, I mean, right against the skin, and it causes major problems. So yeah, you got to keep them dry. You give them dust baths, and that's how they keep clean. Chinchillas are a pain, but they are wonderfully cute, very affectionate little creatures. We also have an ungodly number of guinea pigs, an absolutely ungodly number. I think it's up to 11. Those are fun. They're cute. Jenny is definitely more like the small animal caretaker, especially when it comes to the guinea pigs. She would be more inclined to say what the pros and cons are of those. I would say that, they are fun, they are cute, but I don't think they're not very affectionate. And under the right under normal circumstances, like if you get them and you kind of like cling them to you, then, after 10, 15 minutes, they'll relax and they become very docile and sweet. But they are herbivores, they are prey animals, and they are extremely skittish. So there is no amount of interaction and so forth that we can have with them that will make them, look at us and say, up, up, like we have to chase them down, snag them, and hold them tight, and eventually let them calm down before we actually get that affection. So, but they're awfully sweet in their own right. And then I have one ferret. I had 3, and they have, gone through their lifespans, and I have Taquito left. And the positives of him is he's a little clown. He's a delight. He's cute. He's affectionate. He is mischievous. And all of the negatives kind of go hand in hand with that. He is very high energy. He is very mischievous. And ferrets are carnivores. And that was something that kind of like I was very, before I got ferrets, I was very used to like rats. So it took me a little while to kind of click with the differences between everything. And once I kind of thought of them more as cats than the other animals in like the pet store, it clicked more because, they eat kitten kibble or, raw meat, salmon, chicken liver, things like that. They poop in a litter box, and it's just more akin to cats. So, thinking of them as carnivores and little predators was more accurate, and all the negatives associated with that, carnivores. I mean, I don't think that ferrets smell terribly bad. I know a lot of people do, but I don't. But their poop, their poop, that smells. And that's just hand in hand with them being carnivores. So thank you, Liam, for asking that one. Let's see. Grogu is not affectionate. He doesn't want to be picked up, but he will put up with it. Yeah. That's as I understand it with a lot of lizards. Mushu was a constant mover. He would, yeah. It can be kind of sometimes you just want a pet to cuddle with you and to kind of fall asleep on you, and sometimes that's just not in the cards. And especially when you are talking about a prey species like that, it's very difficult to get them to settle down and to just relax. If I was going to eat you, it would have been hours ago. So just relax. And that can be a tall order. And I think that's where a lot of times pets kind of come into dangerous even situations with families getting them for their young children, is they have that level of expectation that they will be, cuddle bugs that will fall asleep in their hands or their arms. And that's just not reality a lot of the time. And that tends to cause problems, because then, they'll lose interest, and then they'll get, it turns into issues. Anywho, let's go ahead and get to the next question here. Why rotted reviews and not rotten reviews, or rotting, or fermenting, or fermented reviews? That's actually a good question. And it comes down to the genesis of the channel. Thank you, Will, for that. I really do appreciate that. Bring that up here. Yep. What I'm doing to celebrate is this. I'm doing the live stream. No, I'm not marathoning Carnosaur movies, but eventually I will get around. I did watch like the first half of the first one. Eventually I'll get around to going through that. So, yeah, Sean knows this answer. I know I've answered it before once or twice, but yeah, so when I started the channel, I had the very, very misplaced levels of expectations for myself. And that mostly comes down to wanting to do a movie review every single day, 7 days a week, without stop, without fail. It was actually doing two, a review and a deep dive discussion. God, that was incredible. And yeah, I went on about 3 months, 3 or 4 months of doing that. And as you can imagine, I burned out. But I at that time called it ROTD, reviews, for our, ROTD for review of the day. So it was an acronym. And I couldn't keep the pace. So I wound up kind of like drifting off a little bit and setting a little bit more of a realistic goal of quantity of videos. And, the thing I didn't even really take into consideration was, I had never done YouTube before. And when you have that level of quantity, it actually hurts your channel. There's no way that content or, viewers can keep up, and you wind up with stale content or stagnant content that doesn't get the views. And it's better to have a day or two in between each upload. So I kind of learned that as I went. But yeah, so it was review of the day. And it was actually Vicky. I don't know, Vicky, are you still with us? It was actually Vicky that kind of convinced me inadvertently, she didn't know she did this, to undergo the change of the title. And I was interacting with her. I think it was in one of her live streams. And it was one of the first interactions that we had. And she called me out by name. At that time, my channel's name was actually ROTD Reviews. And she stumbled over it and didn't know, she'd like, oh, thank you for your comment. Like, didn't quite, like, I thought that the acronym was very phonetic, rotted reviews. And I was mistaken in that. Once I actually put it out there and let somebody that didn't know me, didn't know my channel, didn't hear me talk about it, no friends, no family, just Vicky, seeing that name for the first time and trying to say it, told me that it needed to be addressed. So I just leaned into the phonetic pronunciation that I had in mind in the first place. And since I wasn't doing a review of the day anymore, I just leaned into it and made it Rotted Reviews. So, when I, the whole, welcome to Rotted Reviews, I was able to keep that. It's just in the beginning days, it was welcome to Rotted Review of the Day. So there we go. And a star was born, and the rest is history. So yeah, that's why it's not fermented reviews. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. What is the silliest concept for a horror movie that you've seen that turned out to be well executed? Oh. There was this really insane concept of this dude that just wanted to make an 1.5 hour long movie of him silently reading a book and call that a movie. And it actually turned out pretty good. I enjoyed it. And I think that everybody should buy a copy. In all seriousness, though, like my first instinct is to say, like Killer Sofa. That was a very silly concept, and I think it turned out okay, but it wasn't great. Silliest I wouldn't say it was well executed. It was reasonably well executed. Killer Sofa was. You know what? I'm going to say silliest concept that was well executed was the 1990 blah. I want to say 1992 movie. Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. If you haven't seen it, it is a wild ride. It is a trip. And I'm not going to say it was a great movie, but it was a horror comedy that a lot of people haven't heard of. And it was silly to the point of a stupid amount of fun. It was almost Naked Gun-esque in its level of slapstick visual comedy. Almost. But yeah, it was very odd and such a silly concept. I mean, I obviously picked it based on the title alone, Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. What a title that is. And I was actually pleased to find myself enjoying the gore and laughing at the some of the comedy, not all the comedy. Some of it didn't age well. Some of it didn't land well, but some of it, yes, I did laugh at, and I thought it was fairly well executed. So that would be my answer on that one. I haven't, you know what? This is my confession. I haven't seen Velocipaster yet. I know. I really do need to get on that one. Okay. You know what, Liam? Oh, God. Okay. Liam asks, so what about the Helen Keller movie? Helen Keller versus Night Wolves, starring Lynn Shay and Barry Bostwick. Man, I'm pretty sure I very nearly drove B away from the channel with that one. Legitimately, I think. I'm surprised she didn't unsubscribe from Patreon, unsubscribe from my channel, and never speak to me again after that one. That one is so purposefully, outlandishly stupid, and yet at the same time, in my mind, so much fun. It's a movie that is so fun to show other people. Helen Keller versus Night Wolves. It was by the same director as FDR American Badass. That should tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. Sorry, B. All right. So let me clean up a few of these again here. Not fermented reviews. Got that one. Okay, I think that's... yeah. Okay, so ready to answer some more questions? Here we go. We're getting them knocked out. Why is Kahala Cthulhu your favorite tabletop role-playing game? What are some of the mechanics you enjoy about it, and what would you change? Well, thank you, Liam, for asking this one. And I think that it's generally a situation where Kahala Cthulhu is, it's comforting to me. I've always been very attracted to mystery novels. I got, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd sitting right on my desk here. I actually just finished it this morning. I've loved mystery movies, mystery books. And especially when we get into things like the, hard-boiled detectives and noir settings and so on. So when I stumbled across Lovecraft and his works, before I knew a lot about him personally, I fell in love with his writing, with the New England, steamy harbor noir 1920s setting. It called to me. It was my jam. And when I found out that there was a game based on it, I was all about that. So I had a lot of fun with that. And I did not grow up with tabletop role-playing games. I didn't grow up playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was very much a child of a religious household during the Satanic Panic craze in the 80s. So yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, no way. They would not allow it. There was no way it was happening. And it wasn't until I was, in my 30s that I met up with a group of folks, and It was hosted by one of my good friends. His name is Chris, and Chris would host a tabletop role-playing game every week. It was on the same day of every week, and he would rotate through 4 of them. So, we would have Call of Cthulhu, then we would have Marvel superheroes, then we would have like a space-based one, then we would have a wrestling one, and then we'd go back to Call of Cthulhu, and we just kind of rotated through that and met up on the first, every, I don't remember, Saturday. And I enjoyed a lot of them, and Marvel was a lot of fun, but Call of Cthulhu, again, it was just it was the setting and the environment and the area that I was able to be, to recognize and have the most fun with, and really branch out with the way that I was able to have my characters kind of explore things. So yeah, I enjoyed the freedom in that, and also the investigative nature to it, that it wasn't primarily based on fighting and battles. If you got into fights, you were typically, in real big trouble. You try to avoid fights, or you try to find creative, intelligent ways around them or in preparation for them, so that you were able to breeze through them or avoid them altogether. And to me, that was really, an interesting idea, that you could actually apply your imagination and your brain and, planning to actually succeed at the game, as opposed to just brute strength. The negatives of it, I think, kind of come into play with campaigns and long form plays. If you were playing more, your character for longer than a period, 3 or 4 sessions, the very nature of it, as you continue to grow as a character and enhance skills and so forth, you're also taking on mental damage and sanity damage that is irreversible, which can be a lot of fun, if you are somebody that, winds up taking insanity damage that causes you to have extreme arachnophobia, while at the same time, acrophobia, and then they put you up on a cliff with a bunch of spiders underneath you. It can be a lot of fun to role play that. But you do wind up with a character that, instead of getting stronger, in some ways you get stronger, but eventually it caps off, and you just can't count on having this character that you are going to stick with for the entirety of your tabletop role-playing career or lifestyle or lifetime. Eventually they will die. Eventually they will go insane. There is a finite amount of adventures that players can go on in Call of Cthulhu before they wind up in a situation of diminishing returns. And to me, that was always a little bit of a difficult concept, because if I develop a character, especially if I get really good at role playing them, I kind of want to stick with them. I'm just having a lot of fun with that. So, but at the same time, change is not necessarily a bad thing. Thank you, DC, for the rotted tip. Very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, how's everybody doing out there? Chat kind of is kind of stalled out here, but still got 15 concurrent users according to this, so happy about that. Y'all doing okay? Should I ask another question or answer another question? We see many video games made into movies. Are there any movies you feel would be good games in their own right? Movies that would make good games. I never thought about that. I usually think about it the other way around. Like, would Red Dead Redemption 2 make for a good miniseries? I don't think I've ever thought about a movie that would make a good video game. That's a really good question, Nicola. Nicola? Am I pronouncing that right? Nikki? Heat. You know what? Heat would make for a fun game. That would be an interesting one. Like, both in the kind of, detective aspect and in the, like if turning it into a first person shooter, but also having investigation elements to it. That would be that. Thank you, Tom. That's a good one. I'm looking at some of my movies here. Oh, I just thought of one. Oh, I see. Okay. Hi. Yeah. Hey, Nikki. Uh, yeah, I just thought of one. Dead End, the Ray Wise, Lin Shaye movie. I think that could make for a good, like just, a small, like a 1 hour, 1.5 hour long, horror game of, driving without, coming to any turns, without coming to any stops, and, wondering what the hell's going on, and having stuff kind of creep out from the sides of the road. I think that could be a lot of fun. I'm sure there's a lot of games like that already, but if you actually had one that followed the storyline of Dead End, I think that could be really interesting. Oh. All right. Let's get to the next question in the list here. Let me just clean that one up. What toppings do I like on my pizza? Asked by Liam. It really depends on my mood. I think that it's, I have several different favorite types. So, I mean, they're like combinations. I think that pepperoni and jalapeno make for a really good combo. You get the meat and, there's the spiciness. Sausage and mushroom make for a good combo. Those are two good 2-ingredient pizzas right there. I'm a big fan of like the full combo, like the, with the onions and peppers and mushrooms and sausage and pepper. I'm like the supreme. That's one of my favorites. Pineapple on pizza. I don't take offense by it. I'm not one of those people that says, like that can't happen. I get angry at pineapple. Pineapple's all right. It's not my first choice. I don't think it's ever my first choice, but that's not to say that I hate it or that I get angry with it. There are so many things in this world that we don't need to be getting angry at pineapple, folks. Let the pineapple be. I mean, aside from the bromine, it's not hurting anybody. But I will say, as far as pineapple on pizza goes, what I will say is that although it will never be my first choice, if there was a pizza party like at work and there were a couple pies on the table and there would happen to be one there, I'll grab a slice. Won't have a problem with it. I have never tried artichokes on pizza. Veggie lovers, I do like veggie lovers. I had a, brief stint with veganism, but I mean, vegan pizza is a whole different thing. But yeah, I do like veggie lovers. But yeah, I tend to drift more towards like the combination. So like, meat with a ton of veggies on it. I've seen broccoli on pizza, and I think that can work, but you kind of, in my mind, broccoli on pizza kind of lends itself to the white pizza, the white sauce, the garlic, bechamel type sauce, not your traditional marinara pizza. Liam, okay. What the fuck, Liam? What the fuck? Ham, tuna, sweet corn, and onions. I got to side with Chloe on this one. Chloe, if you're watching, if you're listening, I don't get it either. That's pretty bad. Even without the tuna, ham, sweet corn, and onions, I mean, corn on pizza. That's got to be like a specialty thing. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to try it to say. I try to not be one of those people that prejudges, but I'd have reservations, and I don't anticipate it going well. I like tuna. I like to, tuna fish sandwiches, tuna wraps. I like tuna surprise. I can't see tuna on pizza. Sorry. Okay. Got that one. And let's get to some more. More answers. You have spoken openly about your weight loss, so I hope this isn't too personal. What is your ideal weight and body type? And is that your goal, or have you got a medium you are aiming for? And thank you, Liam, for asking this. No, it's not too personal. This is Ask Me Anything, and I mean that. So yeah, no, it's definitely not too personal, not out of bounds, and I appreciate the question. So here is my answer for that. I'm not going for a specific body type. My goal is health and a degree of longevity. I have wrecked myself. In the 42 years I've been on this planet, I've gone through ups and downs, but overall, I have not treated my body very well. And even if I get to my goal weight and my goal health and my goal numbers, I am going to look like a Shar-Pei. I'm going to have a lot of loose skin, and I'm going to be needing to make some very difficult decisions in terms of cosmetic surgery. And that's if I get to that goal, which I'm working very hard towards. I don't like to put the cart before the horse, and I don't like to celebrate before I cross the finish line. So I'm not going to say necessarily when it happens, but I'm working for it. But if it happens, thank you, DC, for joining. It was very appreciated seeing you here. But I'm going to have a lot of excess skin if I meet my goals. And I'm going to need to have some very serious thoughts, conversations with Jenny, with my doctor, about cosmetic surgery and skin removal. And, I've been researching it, and it scares the shit out of me. Like the fleur-de-lis style tummy tuck. I'm diabetic, so I heal slowly. It is, from everything I understand, a massively painful thing in recovery. That would have me down and out for several months. So it's not a small thing, and it would be something that I have to, constantly be monitoring for infection. It's not simple surgery, and it scares me. No, I'm not going for a specific body type. I may go the rest of my days just with a lot of excess skin and being happy with having, blood sugar under control, blood pressure under control, being able to exercise well, and knowing that I've, at the very least, not shortened my life. I've been facing death a lot. I know that a lot of you have followed that. And I think confronting a lot of it, as I have over the last several months, has inspired me to not just want to be healthier, but also to want to live and to live well. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but is my light blown out? I think, yeah. I think the sun is coming through this window and it's completely blowing out my background. Let me see if I can fix that. Just 1 sec. I'll be right back. 1 second. Okay, now that looks a lot better. Being healthier is a great goal on its own, and I think you've made great strides. Thank you. I have a lot farther to go. I've lost about 85 pounds so far. I have at least another 85 to go. So a lot more of this journey left. So yeah, how best to put this? A lot of what I think of as me thinking about the future has typically been fairly short-sighted. When I think about the future, I'm usually thinking 1, 2, maybe 5 years ahead. And with everything that I've been going through, with me trying to improve my health, with going through the mourning and the grieving and the death that I have, my viewpoints have started to kind of change. And I mean, I've talked a lot, pretty extensively with Jenny about this. Now, when I think of the future, I'm thinking 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I'm thinking, I'm doing calculations on when, the math involved and the magic number of when I'll be eligible to retire from my job. And then also when I'll be eligible to retire in actuality with like financials. I'm thinking of things more long-term, and in that, I want to be around for them. So yeah, I think that would be like my principal health goal, is to live longer and set more life goals, places that I want to visit, things that I want to do, accomplishments that I want to meet, and live a healthy enough life that it doesn't seem out of line to set those goals. So that's generally what I'm going for in terms of my weight loss, weight and body type, is to get the health complications down and live the best life that I can as well as I can. So yeah, I mean, if I have to live with extra skin, that's the way it is. I know that Jenny will find me handsome and beautiful and sexy regardless, because she's awesome like that. And I don't know what she sees in this, but I'm happy she sees it. So, yeah, thank you, Liam, for asking that. Again, not too personal, and I appreciate the thoughtful nature of the question. And thank you, Mel, for the tip, and really appreciate that. To you too. Let's get to one more question here. Let's see, we're coming up on about an hour. I think we're doing okay. But yeah, I think we can answer at least a couple more and go from here. We'll see. What do you, I mean, you chime in. If you're having fun, you want me to keep going, let me know. What exactly do you think is wrong with the color orange? Thank you, Tom. This is a very Tom question. It's not that I have a problem with the color orange. It's that I have a problem with secondary colors. Be a color. Don't be a mix of I don't know where this is coming from. I don't have a problem with the color orange, but if I did have a problem with the color orange, here's where it would stem from. My parents would go on the weirdest, most obscene health kicks. And this probably turned into an aversion to health for me. And one of those health kicks that they went on was juicing. Oh, they went for, they bought a juicer and they were juicing up a storm. And it wasn't that they were going on their health kick. It was that they were forcing my sister and I on the same health kick. And they would mix up the most ungodly juices and force us to drink it in the morning, every morning. It was like carrots, potatoes, celery. It was terrible. And it would be this orange slurry concoction that would be the worst smelling, worst tasting thing in the world. And they would just it would turn into a fight. It would turn into a massive argument every morning. And it was like yelling, tears, and finally drinking this horrible thing, and the next day repeat. Unfortunately, that didn't last longer than a couple months. They were very unfocused when it came to adhering to health routines, and I was very glad when they moved on from that one. So, thank you, Sammy. You're taking off. Let's see. Having a blast as always, but I should have. Okay. Oh yeah, it is midnight there, isn't it? All right. Well, thank you for joining. I really do appreciate you joining us here. So, and yes, you are saints. Thank you. One day you made repeated disparaging comments about the color orange, which is my favorite color. So clearly I had to ask. Okay. Okay. I don't remember that, but I don't doubt it. Every once in a while I'll get on a rant and, without rhyme or reason. So have a good night, you two. Bye, Liam. Bye, Sammy. I'll talk to you soon. All right. So let's see. Yeah, what exactly did I think was wrong with the color orange in that one rant back that I don't remember? I don't know. I don't remember. But I do remember those orange juices that we had to drink. All right. We're getting this list down. I'm doing great here. What is/was your favorite computer you've owned? Hi, Taquito. Oh. Thank you, Will. I never liked the concept of orange, the color of those juice. I love the fruit. I love eating oranges. It's one of my favorites. Like pears, I enjoy the taste, but it's a little mealy. Apples, it kind of needs to be the right one. But clementines, oranges, tangerines, oh, I'm all about it. They're fantastic. Anyway, the favorite computer I've owned would kind of be two different ones. Now, so I would say this one, the one that I have right now, is something that, I had to kind of save up for, use taxes on, and, enter an agreement with my wife on because it was a significant expense, but I needed a solid desktop computer. So I love this thing to pieces. It's an AMD Ryzen 7 chipset with an RTX 3070 graphics card in it, 32 gigs of RAM. I love it. It's fantastic. It does everything I needed to do without hiccuping. I put a USB-C, 4 USB-C bus PCI card in it. It's just I love it. So in terms of my favorite computer I've ever owned in powerhouse performance, capabilities, and everything that I can throw at it, this computer I have right here, the one that I am streaming on currently. The favorite computer in nostalgia's sake would be the first computer I've ever owned, which was not like an Intel or x86 processor, DOS or Windows machine. It was actually a Texas Instrument TRS-80. There was a cartridge-based system, and we got it from my uncle, and it had an expansion 5.25-inch floppy drive that was about yay big. Just the floppy drive. It was like one side of it, but the entire unit was that, and it weighed a ton, and it had a massive power switch on the side of it, and it sounded like a jet engine just to run a floppy disk drive. And I also had some, what are those, Tom, what are those sizes, like beyond 5.25, like the 8.5 inch floppies, the floppies that are like yay big, that look like 5.25. I also had one of those, but yeah, the TRS-80 was so fun. I would load up like a cartridge for Visual Basic editing, and I would have 8-inch floppies. I would have a manual for I don't remember if it was Visual Basic or not. Kind of thinking maybe it wasn't, but it was like whatever programming language is inherent to the TRS-80, and it would have code written in the instruction manual to like make a program. And the cartridge days, unless you had something that would output to the floppy drive, for the most part, the cartridges, they couldn't save anything. So as soon as you powered off the unit, anything that you did on it was lost. It was well before like the NES, when they actually started including the battery, like the coin batteries in the cartridge to save data. So yeah, I would write verbatim without any understanding of it. I would, copy the text that was in the manual and write the code in that cartridge and execute the program and come up with like a soundboard, press a key and go boop, and press another key and go boop, press another key and go boop. And it was just so, like when I actually ran it and then executed and it didn't have any errors to it, it was amazing. And then I shut the computer off and it would be all gone. But I played some role-playing games on there. I played this like, car driving game that was, like speeding through the tracks. It was my first real experience with having a proper computer that wasn't like a gaming system inherently. And nobody else in my family understood it, which made it all the more special to me because I was the only one that really used it. And I was the only one that really understood it. Yeah, Commodore 64s were a lot of fun. And so were the Apple IIGS, the Apple IIes. When we get into the Macintosh, all of those, I had a lot of fun with, especially, in the K through 12 education system, because it was very Apple heavy coming up in the 80s and 90s. And that was a lot of fun there. Let's see. Mel is asking, where do you want to travel the most? This has been a conversation between Jenny and I. There's a lot of places, and I really don't have a favorite among them, but a lot of her family lineage comes from Scotland, and especially with her mom passing, being very Scottish. She was born in Glasgow and moved to the United States when she got married, so, it was very, very close to the whole Scotland thing there. I would love to visit there and actually, like meet up with some of her family that currently lives there. I've been wanting to visit there generally anyway. I'd love to just go to Europe and, spend several months and get a Euro pass and travel and go to Amsterdam and, France, Germany. I would like to go to Germany and have some proper currywurst and, England, Ireland, the whole bit. Australia, certainly. Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia and Korea are probably at the top of my list there. I would love to visit Seoul, and I guess to a lesser, but I don't know, to an interesting degree, Japan. I think Japan, my reservation about that is, not with the country, but with me. That it seems like the kind of country that would, I don't want to be another big, bold, brash American tourist pounding my way through the streets of Japan, rolling eyes along the way. But I mean, otherwise I would love to visit, and I'd love to be, very, I would love to be quiet and introspective and respectful of the culture and, really kind of take it in and absorb it as best as I can. So, yeah, I think that those are kind of generally the places that I would love to visit. And I would very, very, very much like to take Jenny to San Diego. I was born and raised in San Diego, lived there for the first 26 years of my life. And I would love for her to visit some of the people I know before, life continues on and fades away. Visit some of the haunts that I know, the places that I grew up with. I know that several of them are already gone. I would love to show her, an element of myself that I have not yet been able to. And some of my favorite places and favorite foods and favorite things that you can only see or experience over there. So yeah, San Diego would be right up on the list there, if for nothing else than to kind of show Jenny me, the complete me. And this is a big element of me. You ever have the adapter where you could play games via cassette tape? I did not have that, no, but my good friend and coworker Adrian did, and he loves talking about those days, and he loves talking about the cassettes that he had. Glenn's asking here, what is my favorite Dario Argento film? Confession time, I have only seen a handful of them. I am not well versed in Argento. I am a huge fan of Deep Red. I love it. It's cliched, but man, every frame is a painting, and I love Deep Red. But I want to be more familiar with his works. I want to really dive in and watch Inferno, and so on. Yeah, that's a director that has been on my bucket list to really kind of, really go through the filmography on. So, unfortunately, I'm not terribly well equipped to answer that question. All right. Hour and 10 minutes in. Still doing pretty good here. I'm only getting slightly hoarse. What are some of your favorite rom-coms? Asked by Liam. My favorite rom-coms. Looking back, it is difficult to point out a lot of romantic comedies that have not aged poorly. Yeah, I quite love Actually, and I know that is turning into a tired cliche of an answer, but I stand by it. And one of the things that I do enjoy most about it is that it covers so many different facets of love. Romantic love, unrequited love, broken trust and trying to love with throughout, platonic, brotherly love. It spans the gamut. And although it has, its silliness and it has its melancholy, it winds up being a very well balanced movie that by the end of it, and we're going through the montages of all the characters and their resolutions, I just wind up with I catch myself with the biggest smile on my face possible. I am going from ear to ear, and I love a movie that can do that. I love a movie that can make me feel so warm inside and so happy. So yeah, I mean, it's not without its issues, but yeah, Love Actually is definitely going to be right up there. Wedding Singer, yes, absolutely. That's a fantastic one. I love Wedding Singer. Pretty Woman, sorry, but yeah, Pretty Woman is a great one. The chemistry between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere was just dynamite. And watching Jason Alexander being a little turd. God, there's one that I'm picturing, and I'm not coming up with the title on. What is happening to me? Jason Segel, puppets, beach resort. What the fuck? I know that somebody in chat's going to say it. I'm just waiting for that to happen. I'm waiting for the latency of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Yes, that's a solid comedy there. I just think that with most romantic comedies, I don't want to be the kind of person that just says, "Oh, I don't like rom-coms. I don't like romance movies," or anything like that. I don't like to pigeonhole myself. But what I will say is that a lot of romantic comedies go for the low-hanging fruit, the easy marks, and honestly, the problematic storylines of entitlement. And it kind of, even if I enjoyed them in the past, watching them in the lens of, the person that I've, become and grown into and learned, it had a lot of difficulty with some of those storylines. I think that there is some element, and I hesitate to say this, I'm clearly hesitating to say this, but I think there are some elements of some romantic comedies that kind of idealized the seed that could possibly be put in the ground to encourage incel behavior. All right. Here we go. Let's see. So thank you, Liam, for asking that one. Getting through the list. I'm going to need some more submissions before the next vlog. Have you considered editing all of your Amityville videos reviews into one long omnibus video for those who are too lazy to click? No. I mean, yes and no. I did a playlist. So you should be able to click on the playlist and click play and just blast through them. Which you can get to from the main page of my channel. There should be playlists there, including Amityville. I have considered doing that with the one long video for Puppet Master. And the reason I say that, it kind of lends itself to the Amityville one a little bit, in that it's fractured. I will now do the ultimate ranking videos of Ring and Ju-on and Tremors and so on. And I'll have my hour and a half long videos covering each of the movies, but the Puppet Master ones were very early days of the channel. It was the first franchise that I covered, and it was when I was doing it, a review every day. So I covered all 13 movies in the Puppet Master franchise. Now there's 14, by doing a review for 13 days, one a day. And I've considered combining them all into one video and then doing a new review of the 14th movie and tacking that on the end and coming up with my ultimate Puppet Master thing where I don't have to revisit everything. And yes, it's a little lazy, and yes, it's a little cheap, but I'm not necessarily above that. And honestly, I'm still proud of it. I think that I did this introduction to some of the Puppet Master videos that I'm still in love with, where I kind of, I put myself in the dark and I lit a candle, and it was like I did a voice overlay as I was writing silently, and it was like, the voice overlay of me writing this letter. I likened myself to kind of a Civil War era, writing to my love back home, my darling Annabelle. I'm writing to you. These puppets are doing things I don't understand. I enjoyed. I thought they were cheesy. I thought they were fun intros, and I don't mind sticking with them. So yeah, I've been thinking about doing that with the Puppet Master. But the fact of the matter is the Amityville ones are fractured too. So first 22 are in one movie or one video. The next 8 are in one video. Then I kind of piecemealed them out from there. So maybe now that I have done, put a button on things and I'm not doing any more Amityville, maybe I will do one long omnibus. I don't know. We'll see. Is there a video that you consider the toughest for you? The toughest. I guess that depends on what we're talking about. The Amityville one was very difficult. The first Amityville one I did was extremely difficult because there were some really bad movies in there. But also, it was the longest video that I had done up until that point by a long shot. I had never done an hour and a half long video before. It was my first real foray with the green screen, and it shows. I very, very raw, rough keying in that video. But, trying to sort out things as best as I could to get it even that good. So much of filming quality video behind a green screen background is in preparation and production itself, not in post-production. And I didn't know what I was doing. So it was a lot. Yeah, I didn't have to rotoscope it, thank God. But it was still a lot of work to clean up the, frankly, poor production that I had. And I now can do green screen, I think, reasonably well. I've learned a lot of lessons, and now post-production on it, drop the key and done and move on. So I would say that one was probably the toughest in full-on execution. There are ones that I've done that were more difficult on kind of a moral level, or just kind of like, should I even do this? What should I say about it? There was a review that I did for this movie called No Reasons, and that was a really tough one to get through. It was a movie that made me actually angry, and it dealt with some very, very, very difficult, evil topics, and it did so in such a flippant way that it pissed me off. And it took a lot for me to just decide on whether to even do the video, what I was going to say about it, the tone that I was going to use. And, I wound up coming from a place that I don't like coming from. I don't like being truly angry. I don't mind being, outraged at, this movie that, was so cheesy and, so bad and so boring. But this one actually made me angry. And I don't like being that guy. So that was a difficult one in an emotional level and a mental level to even approach. And after that review came out, I actually wound up talking with a filmmaker. I didn't record it. It wasn't for the channel. It was just for us. We got on a one-on-one Zoom call, and he couldn't have been more gracious. And, it gave me the opportunity to kind of, talk a little bit more about where I was coming from, what my interpretation of things were that got me to that point. And it was a good conversation. So I'm very happy that happened. But that was still a very tough review to do for no reasons. All right, moving on to the next question here. I will leave 2 questions alone so that I have something to answer for the upcoming vlog. So we'll just do 2 more here. What sci-fi franchises could be excellent settings for horror stories? Well, yeah, I mean, Alien, certainly, but I think that, if it already is horror, I'm trying to think of sci-fi franchises that aren't horror that could have good horror stories. And my line of thinking is honestly almost any of them. I think that the key thing is to, zone in. A lot of sci-fi stories are grand and epic in scope, which is fantastic. But if we had, say, take Star Wars, for instance, not an inherent horror movie, but it has some horror elements to it. If you kind of take some snapshots of the series, the Darth Vader, appearance at the end of Rogue One. Great horror, snippet. Some of those scenes when I was a kid scared the shit out of me, from the Great Ewok Adventure. One of the Mandalorian episodes, if you're scared of spiders, holy God, that one's a ride. But I think, if you kind of take the grand epic nature of the space opera and zoom in on it, then you can have that, have some really good horror elements in that world that that would make for a really interesting story. I think that would be the key thing, though, is once you can actually start like planet hopping, it becomes a little bit less interesting. I think it becomes a little more difficult to kind of contain that terror. When I do think of like the most effective sci-fi horror franchises or stories that are out there, that's the key element is, Event Horizon. It was on the ship. They couldn't get off the ship. It was isolated. Alien. It was on the Nostromo. Couldn't get off the Nostromo. It was isolated. I think that's the key element. You can take a franchise, any franchise, and turn it into a horror story if you're willing to take some risks, make it small, make it intimate, and then make it fucking scary. So that's my answer on that one. So we're an hour and 25 minutes into this thing. We can do one more question, and that will save me a couple questions for the vlog. So let's go for it. Last question, at least on the spinning the wheel thing. I'll still be on chat if, people want me to be. So here we go. What are some of your favorite sci-fi / fantasy movies? Did I answer this one? I mean, not in this vlog, or not in this live stream, but I could have sworn I answered this one in a previous vlog. But I'll answer it again. Why not? I think I did answer this one. I think I'm in trouble. Well, we'll see if my answers are consistent at any rate. I tend to go more for fantasy than sci-fi. Some of the sci-fi things that are out there, like especially the effective horror movies, like I just talked about, Event Horizon, Aliens, and so on, I love to pieces. But I think with both of those, there's kind of there's two different elements in play. Oh, bye, Glenn. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Oop. There we go. There's largely two different categorizations for each. There's the accessible, and then there's the hard stuff on both sci-fi and fantasy. There's the accessible fantasy, then there's the really getting into the weeds, fantasy, and same goes for sci-fi. And when we get into the hard sci-fi stuff, I found that to be a lot less interesting. When the books are very dry to me. The fantasy elements I do enjoy a fair bit more. So, I mean, if I'm talking about some of my favorite films, I think that Lord of the Rings is probably top tier. I love the books, loved them growing up, and had a huge influence and impact on my life when I was a teenager reading through Lord of the Rings. And when I saw that they were bringing it to screen and I was watching some of the behind the scenes videos, and the teaser trailers and so on, I was so thrilled to actually see it be done cinematic justice that I can't really think of a better example. Oh God, I did answer this. I think I'm repeating myself. This is one of the biggest deja vu moments in my life, to the point where I don't think it's deja vu. I think I'm legitimately repeating myself from a vlog. Moving on. I do like Harry Potter, but I don't really support the continuation of the franchise or putting any more money in Rowling's pockets. Some of the lesser knowns, or not lesser known stuff, but oh yeah, Time Machine. You know what? The original Time Machine movie was awesome. The Guy Pearce new H.G. Wells Time Machine movie, I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. It had its ups, it had its downs. But what I will say is the scene in which Guy Pearce goes back to the library and meets up with the remnant hologram of Orlando Jones was awesome. That was fucking haunting when he said, "And I remember you, time travel, practical application." Chills, goosebumps. Love that scene so much that almost made the entire movie worth it. But getting into the smaller, or the least, not the big franchise fantasy movies, so like Legend or Willow, things like that. I did enjoy that. Willow was another one that scared me when I was a kid, with the monster on the bridge and the fire spitting heads and so on. Yeah, that freaked me out. But those are some of my favorites. I tend to lean more towards the fantasy than the sci-fi, especially when we do pull back from horror and we're just talking generally, either hard or accessible content. Which, let's be honest, films is usually the more accessible stuff. It's pretty rare that hard sci-fi or hard fantasy gets even approached for film adaptation. And I would say that Lord of the Rings would even be, you know, that's accessible fantasy. I don't think that that's, you know, necessarily falling into the hard fantasy category realm. So thank you, Liam, for asking that. So I think that should about wrap up the vlog questions. I'm going to save those last two for actual vlogs, and I managed to work my way through that list quite nicely. Oh. So at this point, we have 12 concurrent viewers still on the stream here. Thank you so much for putting up with me. Remember to leave a like if you haven't left a like yet. And I'm willing to kind of hang out here for a little bit longer. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to pop them in the chat. We can go ahead and close this thing out with a little bit more conversation, or I can also say goodbye. So I'll just give it a minute to let anybody type what they want to. No? Okay. All right. Then in that case, I will go ahead and close this out. Oh, do you think that a stellar actor could save a terrible movie? I'm assuming no, I don't think that they can save it, but I do think that they can partially redeem it and make it worthwhile to watch. That doesn't mean saving it. That doesn't mean it turns a terrible movie into a good movie. But I do think it can turn a terrible movie into an entertaining one, or one that has enough merit that, you know, I can sit through something mediocre and still enjoy watching this performance. Trying to think of any specific examples of that right now. Cool World. That's some interest. Like, was that Gabriel Byrne? I want to say it was Gabriel Byrne. You know, some interesting performances in that. Not a great movie. Yeah, I don't think a stellar actor could save a terrible movie, but they can make it palatable. So anyway, thank you, Tanner, for asking that. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Sammy, Liam, everybody that joined in today. The soundtrack was great. I really had a lot of fun, and I'm so happy that you've stuck with me, that you've supported me through 5,000 subscribers and through an hour and a half of me making with the jib jab here tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I hope you have a great weekend coming up, and yeah, take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you soon.